The human stood alone in the dim light of the broken starport, breathing slowly as the dust settled around him. His name was Elias Ward, but among the soldiers who had followed him through fire and steel, he was simply called Ward. Right now, he was the only living thing inside the ruins of Outpost Helion, and the only sound came from the wind pushing through the shattered metal walls. The night sky above him was filled with strange colors, the last signs of the Empire's attack that had ended only minutes before. Ward stared at the sky, calm but alert, waiting for any movement in the shadows. He knew they were watching him. They always watched humans now. A soft crack of metal echoed behind him. Ward did not turn. He only spoke, his voice steady and clear. "Come out. I won't warn you twice." A tall alien figure stepped from the darkness. Its armor glowed faint blue, a sign of the Kether Empire. The Kether were feared across the galaxy for their strict rule and endless discipline. This one held a long spear that hummed with energy. It looked at Ward with 4 unblinking eyes, confused that a human was still standing here. Humans usually ran. Or begged. Or hid under rubble. But Ward stood straight, shoulders squared, as if he was greeting an old friend. "You survived the cleansing," the Kether said in a deep metallic tone. "Impossible. Your kind breaks easily." Ward shrugged. "Then maybe your empire hasn't met the right kind of human." The alien's grip tightened. Its armor shifted with a sound like bones cracking. "You are the last one alive here. You should kneel. It will be easier." Ward finally turned his head and met the creature's eyes. He did not show fear. He showed something colder, focus. "I don't kneel," he said. "I made a promise." The alien tilted its head, unsure what he meant. But before it could speak again, the ground shook with a distant boom. Small pieces of metal fell from above. The alien took a step back. Ward did not move. "You hear that?" Ward asked softly. "They're coming. My people. You have no people left." The Kether snapped. "Your colony is destroyed." Ward stepped forward into the light. His uniform was torn, burned in places, stained with dust and blood. But his eyes were bright, sharp, unbroken. He looked like a man who had carried something heavy for a long time and refused to let go. "You don't understand," Ward said. "Humans keep their promises. Even when empires don't. Even when death stands next to them. And I promised I would not let you take this world." The alien raised its spear. "You cannot stop an empire." Ward smiled, not a happy smile, but the tired, confident smile of someone who had already decided how this night would end. "I don't need to stop your empire. I only need to slow you down." Before the alien could react, Ward moved. It was not a graceful move, not the kind trained soldiers used in perfect conditions. It was desperate, sharp, fueled by pure will. He grabbed the spear shaft, twisted, and forced the alien's arm downward. The spear cracked against the floor, sending blue sparks into the air. The alien hissed, surprised by his strength. Ward slammed his shoulder forward, driving the alien into a collapsed support beam. The beam snapped, dropping a heavy section of metal on the alien's legs. It screeched as Ward kicked the spear away. The alien tried to rise, but its legs were pinned. It reached for a small blade on its belt, but Ward stepped closer and pressed his boot against the creature's arm to keep it still. "You humans fight like animals," the alien growled. "You fight without reason." Ward leaned forward. "I have a reason. I promised the people here that I would protect them. Even if I was the last one standing." "Your promise is meaningless." "Not to me," Ward said. The sky above flashed again, brighter this time. The alien looked up, eyes widening. Ward could tell it recognized the pattern in the light. It was not the Empire's ships. It was something else. Something fast. Something human. "You called reinforcements," the alien whispered. Ward stepped back and looked up at the streak of fire cutting through the clouds. "Not reinforcements. A friend." The alien struggled harder, but the metal beam held it down. Ward walked over to the dropped spear and kicked it away. The alien stared at him, confused by the mix of stubbornness and calm in his movements. "Why fight alone?" it asked. "Why die here for a world that cannot win?" Ward looked down at the alien as the sky grew brighter. "Because humans don't run from what matters. And because I made a promise. A promise no empire can survive." The alien opened its mouth to speak again, but its voice was lost beneath the roar of the incoming dropship. Dust exploded around Ward as the craft landed behind him, engines shaking the broken walls. He did not shield his eyes from the wind or heat. He stood there, unshaken, because this was the moment he had waited for. The dropship door opened with a metallic hiss. A silhouette stood inside, tall, armored, and unmistakably human. "Ward," the figure called. "You still alive?" Ward gave a small nod. Took you long enough. The figure stepped out onto the debris. Let's finish this. The Empire won't expect what comes next. Ward looked at the captured alien, then back at the sky where more ships were arriving. No, Ward said quietly. They won't. Because now we start keeping the promise. The dropship's engines cooled with a soft hum, sending thin waves of heat through the ruins. Ward brushed dust off his sleeve as the armored human stepped down onto the cracked floor. The figure removed their helmet, revealing a woman with short dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her name was Captain Mara Hale, commander of the small resistance unit still alive in this region. She looked tired, but there was a spark in her gaze, a spark Ward had always trusted. You look terrible, she said. Ward shrugged. Long day. Mara glanced at the pinned alien struggling beneath the metal beam. Still making friends? He tried to make me kneel. I refused. That's very on brand for you, she said. Then she looked around at the shattered walls. This outpost is gone. No survivors? Ward shook his head. Not here. But there might be some hiding outside the main blast zone. If the Empire didn't sweep that far. Mara nodded, jaw tight. Losing people always hit her hard, even when she tried not to show it. She walked closer to the trapped alien, who hissed at her but could not move. Mara crouched beside it. He give you trouble? She asked. He talked too much, Ward said. Like most of them. Mara smirked. They always think they've already won. Ward stepped beside her. They think wrong. Above them, more human dropships streaked through the dusk sky, burning bright as they descended. The air shook softly with each arrival. The resistance had not been this coordinated in months. It felt like the first breath after drowning. Mara placed her hand against the alien's chest plate. Your Empire thinks humans break easily, she said. That we panic. That we surrender. She leaned closer. But we don't stop when things get hard. We don't quit just because you have more ships. The alien glared at her. Your world is lost. Your promise is dust. Mara stood, brushing dirt from her gloves. You're wrong. You think strength is about numbers. But humans fight for things we care about. For promises. She motioned to Ward. And you made a mistake coming here. A human soldier jogged from the drop ship, carrying a small hologram tablet. Captain Hale. He called, we got movement on the ridge. Could be survivors. Or an enemy patrol. Mara took the tablet and scanned the data. Looks like a group of 10. Heat signatures human-sized. Ward's face changed, just a little, but enough for her to see it. Hope. He rarely showed it, even when things went well. Let's move, he said. If they're ours, we protect them. If they're not, they won't be happy to see us, Mara finished. Either way, we handle it. She turned toward her ship. Ward followed, but paused beside the trapped alien. The creature glared at him with all four eyes. You should kill me, it growled. Your kindness is weakness. Ward leaned close. I'm not being kind. I want you to watch what happens next. Tell your Empire what humans do when they're pushed to the edge. He started walking away. The alien spat, what promise is worth dying for? Ward didn't turn back. All of them. Mara called out from the ship ramp, come on, hero. They won't wait forever. Ward stepped into the dropship. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing out the cold night air. Inside, the cabin lights flickered to life, revealing 5 more soldiers prepping their gear. They all turned to look at Ward. Some nodded. Some smiled. They had heard the stories about him, how he survived the Battle of Meridian Pass, how he once held a bridge alone for 3 hours, how he never let a promise die. Stories grew bigger when spoken by tired soldiers, but no one corrected them. They needed hope. And Ward gave them something real to believe in. All right, Mara said, strapping herself into the pilot's seat. Everyone ready? The soldiers strapped in. Ward didn't sit. He stood near the door, gripping the overhead handle as the ship's engines roared back to life. You're not sitting? One soldier asked. Ward shook his head. Not until I know who's on that ridge. The soldier chuckled. Man never rests. Mara flew low over the broken terrain. Fires still burned in the distance, glowing orange in the wind. Ward watched the ridge come closer through the small window. Dark shapes moved between the rocks, slow, careful shapes, not the disciplined march of Kether troops. Looks human, Mara said. Ward's chest tightened. He didn't show it. The dropship landed on a slope, kicking up dust. Ward jumped out before the dust settled, scanning the shadows. Hello. He called. We're human. Step into the open. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice answered, weak, trembling. Ward? Is that you? Ward froze. It was a voice he knew. A figure stepped out from behind a boulder, limping. A young woman with a torn jacket and soot on her face. Ward's throat tightened. Lena, he whispered. She stumbled forward, and Ward caught her before she fell. She clung to him, shaking. You came back, she whispered. I promised I would, Ward said softly. Mara and the soldiers approached, scanning the area. More survivors came out, 8 in total, tired, scared, but alive. Mara looked at Ward. We found them. But we need to move fast. The Empire will return. Ward nodded. Let them. We're not done yet. Above them, in the dark sky, the Empire's warships began to gather again. But for the first time tonight, Ward didn't look at them with fear. He looked at them like a man ready to make good on a promise. The survivors gathered near the drop ship, shivering in the cold wind. Some were injured, others covered in dust, but all of them looked at Ward as if he were the first safe thing they had seen in days. Ward helped Lena sit on a metal crate, and Mara kneeled beside her to check her wounds. The others spread out, forming a loose circle while the soldiers kept watch on the rocks above. You said you would return for us, Lena whispered. Her voice was thin, almost fading. I didn't think anyone survived back there. Ward wrapped a thermal blanket around her shoulders. I didn't survive, he said with a faint smile. I just refused to die. Mara gave Ward a sharp look. Don't joke right now, she said. She needs stability. Ward nodded. She was right. Lena had always been strong, but even strong people broke if the world pushed too hard. How many days were you hiding? He asked. 2, she whispered. We heard the explosions. The screams. Then everything went quiet. We didn't know if the Empire left or if they were searching for us. They usually stay to make sure, Ward said. We got lucky. Lucky? One of the survivors echoed bitterly. Half the colony is gone. The Empire burned the farms. They bombed the water station. Mara stood and faced the small group. We know what happened, she said firmly. But this isn't the end. We still have a plan. A plan? Another survivor asked. Against them? You saw their ships. You saw what they did. Mara crossed her arms. You'd be surprised what humans can do when we're cornered. Ward placed a hand on her shoulder, a silent, thanks. She always carried the hard conversations when he didn't have the words. The wind shifted. A low rumble echoed through the valley. Ward stiffened and looked toward the dark sky. Shapes moved above the clouds, massive shadows with glowing red lights. Empire Patrol, Ward said. They're sweeping this sector. Mara cursed under her breath. They came faster than expected. One of the soldiers ran up to them. Captain, we detected scans. They know someone survived down here. How long before they reached the ridge? Mara asked. 10 minutes, maybe less. Ward straightened. We move now. Mara looked at the survivors, some limping, some barely standing. Ward, they can't outrun a patrol ship. Ward's jaw tightened. They won't have to. Mara understood instantly and stepped close. No. Absolutely not. We're not splitting up. We have to, Ward said. You take the survivors to the caves. They'll be safe there until nightfall. And you? She demanded. Ward picked up his rifle and checked the charge. I'll lead the patrol away. Lena grabbed his arm. No. Ward, please. You just got here. Don't leave again. He looked down at her hand, then at her face, pale, exhausted, scared. I'm not leaving. I'm buying time. That's the same thing, she said weakly. Ward kneeled in front of her. I told you I would protect you. All of you. That promise is still alive. But I need you to trust me. Lena breathed shakily, then nodded. Just come back. I always do, Ward said softly. Mara stepped between them. I'm coming with you. No, Ward said. You're the best pilot we have. They need you. They need you more, she snapped. Ward shook his head. You're thinking like a soldier. Think like a leader. Mara clenched her jaw. She hated when he was right. The rumble grew louder. Red searchlights swept across distant cliffs. Time was slipping away. All right, Mara said, but her voice cracked a little. Fine. But you better make it back, Ward. Ward smirked. That's the plan. He turned to the soldiers. Take the long route. Stay under the rocks, and keep calm silent. If the Empire scans, they'll pick up the ship's heat signature more than yours. The soldiers nodded and began helping the survivors toward the narrow path leading down the ridge. Mara guided Lena, who leaned heavily on her but kept moving. Ward watched them for a moment. Then he lifted a flare gun from his belt. It was old, scratched, barely functioning, but it would make enough noise to pull attention somewhere else. He jogged toward a tall ridge on the opposite side of the valley. The sky behind him flashed red as the Empire patrol ship broke through the clouds. Its engines howled like a storm. Ward reached the ridge, climbed fast despite the rough rock, and reached the top just as the ship's searchlight swept across the valley floor. He raised the flare gun. "Come on," he whispered. "Look at me." He fired. A bright red flare shot into the sky like a screaming comet. The patrol ship reacted instantly, swinging toward the light. Its sensors beeped loudly. Its engines roared. The ship dove toward Ward's position. Ward didn't run. He faced the incoming ship with cold determination. "You want survivors?" he whispered. "Come get me." The ship fired a burst of plasma into the rocks, exploding them behind him. Ward sprinted along the ridge as fire lit the night. Dust blasted across his face. Shards of stone sliced his arm, but he didn't slow down. He jumped from boulder to boulder while the patrol ship chased him, focusing all its scans and weapons on him alone. Behind him, far across the valley, Mara watched from the shadows as the survivors disappeared into the cave entrance. She whispered into the wind, "Hold on, Ward. Don't break your promise." The sky continued to burn as Ward ran, and the Empire followed him like a hungry shadow. Ward slid down the far side of the ridge, boots skidding on loose gravel as he tried to control his speed. The patrol ship's bright light swept across the rocks above him, turning night into harsh white flashes. The air shook with every engine blast. Dust filled Ward's lungs, but he kept moving, weaving between large stones and broken metal tanks left from old mining days. The ship fired again. A blast of plasma smashed into the cliff behind him, sending rocks raining down. Ward dove forward, rolled, and felt sharp stones scrape his back. He didn't stop to check the damage. Pain meant he was still alive. The ship circled overhead like a hawk hunting prey. Its sensors beeped in rapid bursts, searching, adjusting, locking onto him again. Ward darted into a narrow path between two tall boulders. Sparks flew as another plasma shot hit the ground inches from his foot. He reached the end of the path and slid behind a thick cracked pillar of stone. His chest heaved, breath sharp and dry. He peeked around the rock. The patrol ship hovered above, scanning the ground with red lights that slowly crawled toward him. He had minutes, maybe less, before they narrowed in on his position. Ward clicked on his small wrist comm. Static hissed. "Mara?" he whispered. "Do you read?" More static. He tried again, tapping the side of the device. "Mara, come on." A faint voice finally crackled through. "Ward?" Mara's tone was hushed. "Where are you?" "Keeping them busy," Ward said, forcing calm. "Are the survivors inside the caves?" "Yes," Mara answered. "We're moving deeper. Trying to find the old tunnel system." Ward pressed his back against the stone pillar. He could hear the ship's engines adjusting overhead. "Good. Stay off the comm unless it's important. They're scanning." "Ward," Mara started. He cut her off. "Get them to safety. I'll break contact soon." The comm clicked off. Ward didn't want to hear the rest. If he heard worry or fear in Mara's voice, it would distract him. Right now, he needed to be sharp. The ship's searchlight suddenly narrowed, all three focusing on his direction. Sensors beeped even faster. Ward closed his eyes and breathed once, steady and deep. "All right," he whispered. "Let's try this." He sprinted out from behind the rock and climbed the slope to higher ground. The ship roared down toward him, hungry for the chase. Ward jumped onto a fallen beam, then another, using the scattered ruins as stepping stones. He raced toward a long broken communications tower that lay half buried in the sand. The ship fired again, 3 shots in a row. The blast slammed into the ground near him, pushing him sideways with raw force. Ward tumbled but caught himself on the tower's frame. His muscles burned. His lungs ached. But he kept climbing. He reached the top of the tower's broken edge. The metal was unstable, creaking under his weight. It leaned at a dangerous angle. A single strong blast could send it crashing down. Ward looked up at the patrol ship closing in fast. "Perfect," he muttered. He reached into his vest and pulled out a small explosive charge, one of the last he carried. It was small, shaped like a metal coin, but powerful in close quarters. He slapped it against the tower's support beam and set the timer for 5 seconds. 5 seconds to get away. 4. Ward jumped off the tower, grabbing a hanging cable on the way down. It swung him hard to the side. He let go and hit the ground on his shoulder, pain exploding across his arm. 3. He scrambled behind a large boulder, diving for cover. 2. A sharp metallic beep echoed from the tower. 1. The explosion blew the tower's base apart. The huge structure groaned and collapsed sideways just as the patrol ship flew low over it. The tower smashed into the ship's side, tearing into its engines and armor. Flames burst out. The ship spun, smoke spilling into the sky. Ward covered his head as debris rained down. The ship crashed into the valley floor with a loud metallic scream. Fire spread quickly across its cracked hull. Ward watched, breathing hard. Sweat ran down his forehead, mixing with dust and blood. "Still chasing me?" he whispered. The ship didn't answer. It lay half buried in rock, engines dying. Ward stepped forward, rifle raised. He approached the wreck carefully. He didn't trust the silence. Empire soldiers were disciplined, they didn't panic, didn't scream, didn't break formation. If any were still alive inside that ship, they would fight to the last breath. He reached the broken side hatch. Sparks danced around the twisted metal. He heard coughing inside, sharp and metallic. Ward checked his rifle charge, then pushed inside. The air was thick with smoke. One Kether pilot lay pinned under a metal pipe, struggling to breathe. Its armor was cracked, its mask shattered. When it saw Ward, it hissed weakly. "Human. You cannot win. The Empire is endless." Ward knelt beside it. "And humans don't give up." The alien's eyes twitched. "Why? Why do you fight? Even when all is lost?" Ward reached into his pocket and pulled out a torn piece of cloth, a child's small scarf, faded blue. He held it up so the alien could see. "Because someone waited for me. Someone believed I'd keep my promise." The alien's eyes dimmed. "Promises mean nothing to empires." Ward stood. "Then maybe your empire should be afraid." The alien didn't reply. Its breathing slowed, then stopped. Ward stepped back out into the open air. The fire behind him crackled loudly. The sky began to shift again, new shadows moving in formation. More ships. Bigger ones. The Empire was coming, and this time they were angry. Ward tightened his grip on the rifle. "Mara," he whispered into the calm. "Get ready. This fight isn't over." Then he ran toward the caves, knowing the storm was only beginning. Ward ran across the dark valley floor, keeping low as the wind carried dust around him. The crashed patrol ship burned behind him, lighting the night with orange flames. Every few seconds, he glanced at the sky. More Empire ships were dropping through the clouds, larger ones, heavier armored, moving with slow confidence. They weren't searching anymore. They knew where the survivors were heading. They were coming to crush whatever was left. Ward reached the base of the ridge and began climbing. His legs shook with exhaustion, every muscle tight, but he forced them to keep going. The caves weren't far. He just needed to get up the slope before the Empire reached the valley. Halfway up, he tapped his comm. "Mara," he said through heavy breaths, "status." Static filled the line, then her voice came through. "We're in the caves. Survivors are stable. We found the old tunnels, they go deep." "Any sign of pursuit?" Ward asked. "Yes," Mara answered. "Scans from above. They know we're here." "And Ward?" "They're deploying walkers." Ward stopped climbing for half a second. "Walkers?" "Heavy ground machines with armored legs and powerful cannons. The Empire used them to break cities." "How many?" he asked. "3 that we can see," Mara said. "Maybe more behind them." Ward wiped sweat from his brow. "All right. Secure everyone. I'm almost there." "Ward, hurry," Mara said, her voice tight. "We won't hold long without you." He pushed himself up the last stretch, heart pounding, lungs burning. When he reached the cave entrance, 2 soldiers stood guard with rifles aimed at the sky. They relaxed when they saw him. "Ward," one shouted. "Glad you made it." "Report?" Ward asked as he ducked inside. "The captain's deeper in the tunnels. Survivors safe for now." Ward nodded and hurried through the narrow passage. The cave walls were rough and cold. Drops of water echoed through the tunnels. The deeper he went, the darker it grew until he reached a chamber lit by small portable lamps. Survivors sat along the walls, wrapped in blankets, whispering in low, tired voices. Soldiers moved among them, offering water, checking wounds. Mara stood near the center, studying a rough map drawn on the dirt floor. When she saw Ward, her shoulders dropped in relief. "You're alive," she said. "Still working on that," Ward replied with a tired smile. "What do we have?" Mara pointed at the map. "The caves stretch into the mountains. There's an escape path here," She tapped a narrow crack along the edge, but it's tight and unstable. We can't move fast through it. Ward kneeled beside her. And the walkers? 2 kilometers out, Mara said. We heard their engines. Sounds like they've deployed infantry too. Ward closed his eyes for a moment. The caves gave them cover, but walkers could break through rock with enough time. They needed to move before the Empire cornered them. Lena limped over, leaning on a soldier's arm. Ward, she whispered, what's happening? Ward stood and helped her sit. We'll get you out. I promise. She shook her head, voice trembling. Don't make promises you can't keep. Ward crouched beside her. If I say it, I mean it. Before Lena could respond, the entire cave shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Survivors cried out in panic. Lamps flickered. Mara grabbed Ward's arm. That was a cannon blast. Ward listened. A distant thumping echoed through the tunnels, heavy, slow, mechanical. The unmistakable sound of walkers. They found the entrance, a soldier said, fear in his voice. Another blast shook the chamber, louder this time. Ward stood tall. Get everyone moving. Now. Deeper into the tunnels. Mara nodded, raising her voice. Everyone up. Soldiers to the front and back. Move quickly but stay together. The survivors rose, some leaning on each other, some carried by soldiers. The group began heading down the narrow tunnel. Ward looked at Mara. I'll slow the walkers. Mara grabbed his vest. No. Ward, don't. You already faced a patrol ship alone. That was different, Ward said. This is about time. You get them out. She clenched her jaw. I'm not leaving you behind. You're not, Ward said softly. I'll be right behind you. It was a lie, and she knew it. Her eyes narrowed. Don't do this. Ward placed a hand on her shoulder. You're the leader. They need you. I'm the shield. Let me be what I am. Another blast hit the cave mouth, sending a shockwave through the tunnels. Screams echoed as rocks fell from above. Mara swallowed hard, then nodded once, sharp, angry, but accepting. Fine. But you better survive long enough for me to yell at you later. Ward smiled. I'll try. She ran to the front of the group, shouting orders. The survivors continued moving deeper, lanterns swinging, footsteps echoing. Ward turned and jogged back toward the cave entrance. Each step felt heavier, but he didn't slow down. When he reached the mouth of the cave, he crouched behind a rock and looked out. 3 walkers stood outside, massive metal monsters with glowing red eyes and armor thick enough to stop tank rounds. Their legs stomped into the ground, cracking stone. Empire soldiers marched in front of them like shadows. Ward lifted his rifle. You want them, he whispered, you go through me. The walkers aimed their cannons. The ground shook. Ward fired first. Ward's first shot cracked through the cold night air, striking one of the Empire soldiers in the chest. The soldier dropped instantly, and the others scattered for cover. The walkers paused, their red sensors shifting toward Ward's position. Their cannons glowed brighter. Ward ducked behind a large boulder just as a blast tore through the cave entrance, sending chunks of rock flying. The shockwave slammed into him, knocking him to his knees. His ears rang. Dust filled his mouth and nose. But he forced himself up and fired again, aiming for the walkers' joints. Human rifles couldn't break their armor, but they could slow the machines if they hit the right places. A second blast hit the rocks above him, sending huge stones crashing down. Ward rolled out of the way just in time. One stone missed his leg by a few inches. He tasted blood, his vision blurred, but he kept moving. He sprinted to another rock formation and took cover behind it. The ground trembled with each walker step. Empire infantry advanced, firing in steady bursts. Blue bolts of energy struck the ground near his feet, scorching the dirt. Ward fired a short burst at a group of soldiers, forcing them back. But he could hear the walkers charging their cannons again. He knew he couldn't hold this position long. He tapped his comm. Mara, what's your distance? Static, then Mara's voice broke through. Halfway through the tunnels. They're slow, Ward. Many are injured. Ward pressed his hand against the stone wall, catching his breath. I'll give you more time. Ward, Mara warned, you're outnumbered. You need to fall back. No, Ward said. If I fall back now, they'll catch you in minutes. Ward. He cut her off. Just keep moving. He shut off the comm before she could argue more. If she told him to retreat again, part of him might listen. And he couldn't afford that. Outside, one walker changed position, moving to flank the cave entrance. Ward watched its massive legs shift. Then he noticed something. Its movement was slower on one side. The tower he had destroyed earlier had damaged some Empire machinery. Maybe it was luck. Maybe not. But it gave him an idea. Ward sprinted toward a cluster of old mining crates half buried in the sand. Energy bolts followed him, lighting the ground with blue sparks. He dove behind the crates. They shook but held. The walkers stomped closer. Ward reached for his belt and grabbed his last explosive charge. He stared at the tiny metal disc in his palm. One left. Not nearly enough to stop 3 walkers. But maybe enough to stop one. He peeked over the crate. The damaged walker hobbled forward, one leg not bending properly. Its cannon aimed toward the cave, ready to fire again. Ward breathed slowly. He had to get close, dangerously close. He whispered to himself, just one push. One opening. Then he burst from cover. He ran straight toward the walker, zigzagging to avoid incoming fire. Blue bolts screamed past him. The ground shook under each of the machine's steps. Ward charged toward its legs, heart pounding, lungs burning. He slid beneath the walker's chassis, sparks raining from above as its cannon fired at the ground behind him. Ward clamped the explosive to the broken leg joint and rolled away. The walker tried to turn, but stumbled, metal groaning loudly. Ward pressed the detonator. The explosion lit the ridge in a burst of orange fire. The blast blew the walker's leg apart. The machine tipped to one side and crashed into the valley floor, shaking the earth like an earthquake. Dust shot into the air. Pieces of armor scattered across the rocks. Ward lay on his back, gasping, pain shooting through his shoulder and ribs. But he pushed himself to his knees. He looked up at the remaining 2 walkers. They hadn't stopped. If anything, they moved faster. Angry. A group of Empire soldiers rushed toward him, shouting in their harsh language. Ward staggered to his feet, grabbed his rifle, and fired in short bursts. He hit 2 of them before a third fired back, grazing his side. He hissed in pain but kept shooting. The walkers charged their cannons again. Ward's mind raced. Without explosives, he couldn't damage them. He looked at the cave entrance, still partially open, but collapsing bit by bit under the bombardment. He reached for his comm again. Mara. How far now? Her voice came back breathless. We reached the narrow tunnels. We're almost at the exit. Ward, where are you? Busy, he said. Another blast hit the cave wall, shaking it violently. Ward realized the walkers weren't targeting him anymore, they were targeting the tunnel itself. They wanted to seal the survivors inside. Crush them under tons of rock. Ward couldn't let that happen. He sprinted out of cover, firing at the infantry to draw their attention. Energy bolts hit the ground near him. He kept running toward the canyon edge, staying in full view. The walkers turned their cannons toward him again. Ward shouted, "Come on. Look at me." Their sensors locked onto him. He kept running. The canyon was a few meters away. If he could reach the edge and drop into the lower ravine, he could draw the walkers away from the cave entirely. He pushed harder, legs screaming in pain. The wind whipped dust into his eyes. The walkers' cannons glowed bright behind him. He was steps from the canyon edge when the ground suddenly split from a blast. The shockwave hit him like a hammer. His body lifted into the air. He crashed onto the ground and slid across the dirt until he hit a rock. His vision blurred. The world spun. He tasted blood. He tried to stand. His legs trembled and failed. He heard the walkers stomping closer. He pressed his hand into the ground and forced himself up again, inch by inch. Not done, he whispered. Not yet. But as the walkers raised their cannons again, Ward finally realized something. He wasn't going to outrun them this time. Ward pushed himself up again, hands trembling, vision swimming in and out. The walkers loomed above him, their red sensors fixed on his body like unblinking eyes. Dust swirled under their legs as they charged their cannons, lights glowing brighter, brighter, until the air itself felt hot. Ward staggered backward toward the canyon edge. His boots slipped on loose stones. His chest ached each time he breathed. His body felt heavy, like the weight of the whole war had finally landed on his shoulders. He whispered, "Not yet. Just give me one more step." The walkers aimed. A scream echoed across the valley. "Ward!" It was Mara. Ward's eyes widened. He turned his head just enough to see figures emerging from the cave, Mara and 2 soldiers. They were running toward him, rifles raised, firing at the Empire infantry even though the walkers ignored the small caliber shots. "No," Ward shouted, coughing. "Get back. Run." But Mara didn't stop. She sprinted faster, dust flying behind her boots. Her face showed no fear, only determination. The walkers shifted their aim. Their sensors locked onto the new targets now sprinting across the ridge. Mara kept running. 2 soldiers beside her fired non-stop, trying to draw attention away from Ward. Empire soldiers returned fire. Blue bolts sliced the air. 1 soldier fell instantly. The other dug behind a rock, shouting at Mara to retreat. She didn't. Ward, she yelled again. Move. Ward tried. His legs shook. He stumbled forward, almost falling over the edge. The walkers' cannons roared. A blast hit the ground between Mara and Ward, throwing both of them backward with a wave of force. Mara crashed onto her back, sliding across the dirt. Ward hit the ground face first, the world flashing white. He felt his breath leave his chest. He couldn't move for a second. His ears rang. Everything sounded far away, like he was underwater. Through the ringing, he heard Mara scream again, raw, desperate. Ward. Get up. Ward tasted blood. He spat, pushed himself onto his elbows, then onto his knees. Every part of him wanted to stop. Every bone felt cracked. Every muscle felt torn. But he remembered Lena's face. He remembered the survivors hiding in the tunnels. He remembered the colony before it burned. And he remembered the promise. I keep my word, he whispered. He stood. Not straight, not steady, but he stood. The walkers aimed again. Mara reached him, grabbed his vest, and tried to pull him behind a rock. Ward. They're targeting us. We have to move. Ward shook his head weakly. They're targeting me. They always have. Stop talking like that, Mara snapped. You're not dying out here, not now. He looked into her eyes. Take them home. No, she said, voice breaking. Not without you. Before Ward could answer, a distant thunder rolled through the air. Mara froze. What is that? Ward squinted up at the sky. Shadows, many shadows, broke through the clouds. Then engines. Then fire. A fleet. Human. Real human ships. Massive, sleek, dark metal with bright blue engines. The kind built for war. The kind built for revenge. The kind the colony was told would never come. Mara's eyes widened. Ward. Is that? He smiled weakly. It's them. The human fleet descended like a storm. Bright beams of light shot from their cannons, cutting through the clouds. Bombardment fire lit the horizon, shaking the ground under Ward's feet. The walkers turned their sensors upward in confusion. The Empire infantry hesitated. For the first time tonight, they looked unsure. A human battleship roared across the sky and launched a heavy strike at the ridge. The walkers tried to move, but the bombardment hit them like a hammer. One exploded in a burst of fire. The second staggered, legs snapping, collapsing onto its side. The last one tried to fire back, but a precise rail shot tore through its core. 3 explosions lit the night. The valley went silent. Ward and Mara stared as the sky filled with human fighters and drop ships. More and more arrived, forming a massive formation that shimmered in the moonlight. Ward closed his eyes and breathed out slowly. They came. Mara grabbed his arm, helping him stay upright. This isn't possible. We sent that distress call months ago. We thought no one heard. Ward swallowed hard. They heard. Across the valley, the remaining Empire soldiers dropped their weapons and fled. Human fighters chased them, forcing them deeper into the mountains. A drop ship descended near Ward and Mara. Its door opened, and a tall man in heavy armor stepped out. His voice boomed through a speaker. Which one of you is Ward? Ward lifted a shaking hand. That would be me. The armored man stepped forward and extended his hand. You kept them alive. You held the line. Your signal reached the outer sectors. You gave us something no empire can break. Ward blinked. What is that? The man smiled behind his helmet. A promise. Ward felt Mara squeeze his arm gently. He looked at the sky again, at the fleet that burned brighter than the empire ever had. Humans had come. Not because of power. Not because of orders. But because one man said he would protect his people. And humans keep their promises. Ward finally let his legs relax. Mara caught him before he collapsed. He gave her a tired smile. I told you I'd come back. Idiot, she whispered, hugging him tight. Don't ever do that again. Ward laughed softly as the human fleet lit the night sky. The empire wasn't endless. No empire survives the promises humans make. Not this time. And not ever again.